I had explained about meaning, definitions, essentials, objectives, functions, importance, and limitations of statistics. Now, let us focus on the branches of statistics. The branches of statistics are classified into descriptive statistics and inferential statistics. First, let us understand what is descriptive statistics. Descriptive statistics are used to describe the basic features of the data in a study. They provide simple summaries about the sample and its measures. Now let us understand what is inferential statistics. Inferential statistics use measurements from the sample of subjects in the experiment to compare the treatment groups and make generalizations about the larger population of subjects. Now let us understand the first point, descriptive statistics. As you can see, the statistical figures, it is confined to the treatment of data for the purpose of describing their characteristics. It involves techniques for summarizing data and presenting them in a usable form. And also, there are four major types of descriptive statistics we are going to see in the next coming chapters. The four major descriptive statistics are measures of frequency, in that we are going to see count, percent, frequency, and number two, measures of central tendency. In that we are going to discuss about mean, median, and mode. Measures of dispersion or variation is number three. In that we are going to see range, variance, and standard deviation. And number four, measures of position. Percentile ranks, quartile ranks are these things we are going to see in descriptive statistics. Now let us see the second branch, inferential statistics, or it is also called inductive statistics. It deals with techniques used for analysis of data, making the estimates and drawing conclusions from limited information taken on sample basis and testing the reliability of the estimates. Now you can look at the example. With inferential statistics, you can take the sample data from a small number of people and try to determine if the data can predict whether, for example, COVID-19 drug will work out for everyone or not. Furthermore, here we are going to use formula which forms the basis for drawing conclusions about the data collected. The formula what we are going to use is mean is equal to sigma x by n. The total description about the formula we will be discussing in the next coming chapters. Also, for example, with inferential statistics, you can take to understand with several experiments like playing cards, rolling a die, selecting random balls, etc. With these experiments also inferential statistics can be done. Now let us understand activity 1.1. In each of these statements, students, you need to answer whether it falls under descriptive or inferential statistics. Let us focus on question number 1. Testing every light bulb produced by a company to confirm that each one works. Can you guess, dear students, what is the answer? Yes, the answer is descriptive statistics. Now, question number 2. Testing random samples of light bulbs produced by a company to confirm it works. Could you please guess what is the answer, dear students? It is inferential statistics. Now you can understand the difference between descriptive and inferential statistics. So when everything is tested, it falls under the category of descriptive. When you draw a random sample and go for inferences is said to be inferential or inductive statistics. Question number 3. Testing a new drug on a random sample of patients to see how effective it is at curing the flu. Now it is very easy now, dear students. You can see the question random sample. So whenever you see random sample, the answer is going to be, any guess? Inferential statistics. Yes, you are right. Now let's move on to the next question, number 4. The mean monthly maximum temperature in Muscat vary between 40 degrees Celsius in June and 25 degrees Celsius in Jan. You need to focus very carefully. One is on June, the other one is on Jan. Whether there is continuity or not, this is what we need to see. If there is no continuity, it is said to be, dear students, do you know the answers? Yes, it is inferential statistics. Question number 5. Percentage of boys in a classroom is 70% out of 100. So it is giving total count 70%. When it is done totally, it is called descriptive statistics. Yes, the answer is right. Now question number 6. When you make inferences from the sample and generalize them to the population, now what is this statistics called? Any guess, dear students? Yes, it is inferential statistics. So having understood the difference between descriptive and inferential, now let us move to understand what is population and sample with simple examples. Now what is a population? When we think of the term population, we usually think of people in our town, region, state, or country and their respective characteristics such as gender, age, marital status, etc. In statistics, the term population takes on a slightly different meaning. The population in statistics includes all members of a defined group that we are studying or collecting information on for data-driven decision. Now, for example, you may ask a question, what is the total population of Oman? The current population of Oman is 5,131,618. So this is the statistics as of September 13, 2020 based on Worldometer elaboration of the latest United Nations data. Now let us understand what is the meaning of sample with simple examples. Now for example, suppose we want to have an idea about the percentage of illiterates. Illiterates means people who have not gone to study to school or colleges. Okay. I repeat again. Suppose we want to have an idea about the percentage of illiterates in our country, we take sample from the population and find the proportion of illiterates in the sample. Like you can look at the figure which is given below. This sample proportion, with the help of probability, enables us to make some inferences about the population proportion. This study belongs to inferential statistics. As I told you earlier, when you draw a sample from the total population or a set of group from the total population, that study is what we call inferential statistics. And the group which is drawn from the population is what we call sample. Now let us understand with Now let us understand a self-test with some real life examples. In a school of 2000 students, 100 are selected at random. I repeat again, in a school of 2000 students, 100 are selected at random. The question is very simple. Which of the following numbers refers to population and which refers to sample? You need to identify which belongs to population, which is sample from the given question. Could you please identify, dear students, which is the population and which is the sample? Yes, 2000 students is said to be the population and 100 students which is selected at random is the sample. Now let's move on to question number 2. The colors of cars in the car park area of University of Technology and Applied Sciences Shinas are black, blue, white and silver. What type of statistics does this refer to? Now you see this refers to color of car. When it refers to color of car, it refers to the characteristics. When it talks about characteristics, it is called descriptive statistics. So question number 3. When formula are used to arrive at statistical conclusions, what type of statistics can this be called? So when you get a conclusion, so it is said to be, can you guess, dear students? Yes, the answer is inferential statistics, or it can also be called inductive statistics. After understanding the branches of statistics with simple case studies and examples with regards to population and its sample size, now in this session I am going to explain variables and their measurement scales with simple activities and examples. Let us first understand what is the meaning of variables and its types. Everyone needs to measure things from time to time. Sometimes these measurements need to be very precise, that is clear, sometimes not very precise. When conducting a statistical study, the researcher gathers data for the particular variable under study. A variable is a characteristic being measured that varies among persons, events, or objects being studied from data source. So what we can understand is a variable is any characteristics, numbers, or quantity that can be measured or counted, and it is also called a data item because the value may vary between data units in population and may change in value over time. So that is what we can understand with regards to meaning of variable. Now let us understand the types of variables. Variables are summarized into qualitative variables and quantitative variables. Quantitative variable is broken down into discrete and continuous. Now, let us first understand what is qualitative variable. The variables that can be placed into distinct categories according to some characteristic or attribute. For example, if subjects are classified according to gender, male or female, then the variable gender is qualitative. So we need to understand qualitative variable are also called categorical variable. What does it mean? It describes data that fits into category. I will give you further example like eye color. So eye color, what is a variable we can include? Blue, green, brown, hazel, black, etc. So this is an example to further understand qualitative variable. Other examples of qualitative variables are religious preferences and geographic locations. So here it talks about characteristic features. So in this way, we need to understand the meaning of qualitative variables. What is quantitative variable? So quantitative variables are measured on numeric or quantitative scale. For example, a country's population or a person's shoe size or car speed, etc. So in this regard, quantitative variables are numerical and can be ordered or ranked. So as you can see the picture displayed, it can be ranked so that it will give you a clear idea which one comes first, which one comes second in order to make effective decision. Now furthermore, we can understand with example, the variable age is numerical and people can be ranked in order according to the value of their ages. Other examples are heights, weights, and body temperature. So the word quantitative, we have to understand it determines the numerical value. When it comes as numerical value, we call here as quantitative variables. Like for example, height, weight, body temperature, or the age, etc. Now let us understand a simple activity in order to classify which example falls under qualitative or quantitative variables. Number of off-road vehicles sold in Oman. It is not on-road, off-road, which is sold in companies. So when you say number, it is said to be, can you guess dear students? Yes, the answer is quantitative variable. Number of pages in managerial statistics textbook. Again, you see number. Whenever you see number, the answer is going to be quantitative variable. Weight of fish caught in the Sea of Muscat. So weight is expressed in number, right? So the answer is going to be again quantitative. Yes. Now let us see one more example. Classification of children in a daycare center. Now, this example does not talk about number. When it does not talk about number, the answer is going to be, any guess, dear students? Qualitative variable. Yes, you are right. Now, let us see one more example. Number of desks in your classroom. So, when you start to count the number of desks, when it is expressed in number, it is said to be quantitative. Yes, correct. Colors of cars in the teacher's parking lot area. You need to be very careful. Is it talking about number? No. Color, characteristic features. So when it talks about the feature, it is said to be qualitative variable. Now, I hope students you can understand the difference between quantitative variable and qualitative variable. Quantitative variables are expressed in numerical terms, whereas qualitative talks about features, classification, etc. I hope this example is very clear. Now let us understand quantitative variables are classified into two groups, discrete and continuous. What is discrete? Let us see discrete. In general, variables, as mentioned previously, can be quantitative or qualitative. When a quantitative variable has only a countable number of values, it is called discrete. I repeat, students, please be very careful. Countable number of values. So when it is countable, it is called discrete. So this is what one has to keep things in mind to understand and classify which example belongs to discrete and which example belongs to continuous. I will be checking you very shortly with some examples. Get ready. Now, let us see some examples. Monthly number of accidents in Muscat Road. Is it countable or countless? Countable. Number of academic faculty in Sultan Qaboos University, and you can keep on add any example. You have to understand when it falls under the criteria of countable number, it is said to be discrete variable. So I hope this example is very clear. Now let us understand what is continuous variable. However, when the quantitative variable has any one of the countless number of values in a line interval, it is called continuous. I repeat once again, quantitative variable has any one of the countless. You have to underline countless number of values in a line interval. Whereas discrete says countable. When it is countable, it is discrete. When it is countless, it is said to be continuous. Yes, this is the way you need to keep in mind to understand clearly. Now let us look into the examples. Height and weight of students in a class. Why it is continuous? Because height and weight of students are all same? No, it differs from person to person. So that is why I told you any one of the variable becomes countless number of values in a line interval. It is called continuous. Yes. Now I'm going to test you, dear students. Now you have to clearly think and tell me which example belongs to discrete and continuous. Let us see question number 1. Number of loaves of bread baked each day at a local bakery. I repeat, number of loaves of a bread baked each day at a local bakery. The answer is discrete because end of the day you can count how many has been sold. Okay. Now let us see question number 2. Water temperature of saunas at a given health spa. Now please tell me, water temperature is countable or countless? Will it be same? So this is what we need to think. In this case, it is not countable. It is countless. So it comes under the category continuous. Yes. Let us see example number 3. Lifetimes of batteries in a tape recorder. Now, lifetime of battery, is it countable or countless? It depends on usage. If you are using more, the life will be less. If you are using less, life will be more. It depends. So it is countless. When it is countless, it comes under the category discrete or continuous. Dear students, is it discrete or continuous? Yes, it is continuous. You are right. So now these examples are very clear. When it is countable, it is said to be discrete. When it is countless, it is said to be continuous variable. Now let us see further still some more examples. So example number 4. Weights of newborn infants at a certain hospital. Any guess, dear students? The answer is continuous variable. Because weights of newborn, you cannot say exactly baby will be born only specified number of kilo. No, it can be more, it can be less. It falls under the category countless. That is why continuous. Capacity in gallons of water in swimming pool across the country. I repeat, capacity in gallons of water in swimming pools across the country. It is continuous. Can you guess the capacity? No, it keeps on changing. It depends on how many number of people are getting into the pool and getting outside. The water gallons keeps on changing. It is countless. Number of pizzas sold last year in Pizza Hut, Oman. I repeat, number of pizzas sold last year in Pizza Hut, Oman. See, last year, is it countable or countless? Countable. When it is countable, it is said to be discrete. Yes. After focusing on the meaning and types of variables with simple examples, let us understand what is measurement and what are the different measurement scales used in statistics. And also, I will be explaining about what is a statistical survey and why it is being done. Now, let us focus on measurement scale to understand what is the meaning as well as the different types. In any study, we assign numbers to some variables. I explained in my previous lecture what is a variable. Do you know what is a variable? Any idea? Variables are any characteristics, numbers, or quantity that can be measured or counted. That is what I have explained in my previous lecture. And also, variables are classified into qualitative variable and quantitative variable. Qualitative variable describes data that fits into categories like, for example, I told gender, male, female, and also color of eyes. I gave you example with regards to qualitative variable. Quantitative variables are measured on a numeric or quantitative scale, like for example, the total of population, height, weight of students, etc. So I repeat again, in any study, we assign numbers to some variables, characteristics, and descriptive words to others. The process of assigning numbers or agreed upon descriptive words to variables is called measurement. Now we need to focus assigning numbers or agreed upon descriptive words to variable. So when you assign numbers with descriptive words to variable, this is what we mean measurement in statistics. In general, there are four different measurement scales for variables, like we have nominal scale, ordinal scale, interval scale, ratio scale. Let us see what are these meaning with some examples. Now, I'm going to explain about nominal scale, ordinal scale, interval scale, ratio scale with a simple example. Now, just imagine, for example, there are runners running in a running race. So just think about it, how they will be running. They start the race on the track and they carry different numbers either on their front or back of their jersey, and the event will be completed and the winners will be selected. So this is what happens in a running race. Now, by taking this running race, how to understand nominal scale, ordinal scale, interval scale, ratio scale, I am going to explain now. Now, when you assign numbers to runners, this is what we call nominal. Maybe some 3, 8 or 7, whatever may be the number in a random way when you assign. So this kind is what we call nominal scale. Now, what is ordinal scale? After the race gets over, we identify who has secured first place, who has secured second place, and who has secured third place. So it determines the rank. So this is what we call ordinal scale as an example. Now, what is interval? Interval is what we are giving performance rating on a scale, for example, 0 to 10. How much a person who came first has secured, how much a person came second has secured, how much a person came third has secured. Like, for example, 9.6 for first place, 9.1 for the second place winner, 8.2 for the third place winner. So, this is what we call interval scale. Then what is ratio scale? The time taken to complete the race. Like the first place winner has taken 13.4 seconds to complete the race. The second place winner has taken 14.1 to complete the second place. The third place winner has taken 15.2 seconds to complete the race. So this is a simple example you can take and you can understand with regards to different scales used in statistics like nominal, ordinal, interval and ratio scales. I hope this example is clear. Now let us understand what is nominal scale. Let us take the example of Oman. This involves classifying characteristics of people, objects, or events into non-overlapping categories with no order. These are also called categorical or qualitative. For example, gender, male or female, whatever may be the number, I will assign maybe 0 for male or 1 for female, or region, I will categorize number 1 for Muscat, number 2 for Dhofar, number 3 for Albatina, etc. So I am the one who is choosing the number with no order. So this is what we can understand with regards to nominal scale as an example. Now let us move on to understand what is ordinal scales. Now, Almighty has to save everyone from COVID 19 death. This is just an example I have taken to understand. Now, look at this image. What is the understanding quickly we are getting COVID 19 death by country? So it keeps on changing. This is just an example which shows Italy on top, Spain on second, US. Again, the rank keeps on changing. So in rank order, we can understand who is on first, who is on second, who is on third, and what is the solution we can identify. This can be identified with regards to ordinal scale. This involves putting characteristics into categories that have an order, but the distance between the number is unknown. That is between first, second, and third. That distance is unknown. Like for example, not only we can identify COVID-19 deaths by country, we can also identify socio-economic status, which country has higher rank, middle or lower rank. As well as we can take education also for example and identify which country has highest degree with regards to university, secondary education, primary and elementary education. So this is the example to understand with regards to ordinal scales. So I hope this example is clear to understand. Let us move on to the next part, interval scales. Now in this scale, the distance between the ordered category values are equal because there is some accepted physical unit of measurement. The scale has no arbitrary zero, like for example temperature given in numbers such as 75 degrees, 78 degrees Fahrenheit, etc. So this is an example to understand with regards to interval scales. Now let's move on to understand what is ratio scales. Now this scale consists of meaningfully ordered characteristics with equal intervals between them and the presence of a 0 point that is not arbitrary but is determined by nature, example weight, height, etc. So this gives an idea with regard to understand about ratio scales. Now let us take a simple activity 1.4 to understand which of these examples falls under nominal, ordinal, interval or ratio scales. Now the first example, horsepower of motorcycle engine. Any guess dear students? The answer is ratio scale. Ratings of newscast in Houston: poor, fair, good, excellent. So when you see this kind of scale, so the answer will be ordinal scale. Temperature of automatic popcorn poppers. When you see temperature, it comes under interval scale. Time required by drivers to complete a course. So this falls under the example ratio scale. Salaries of cashiers of day-night grocery store. This also comes under the category ratio scale. Marital status of respondents to a survey on savings account. Any guess, dear students? Nominal scale. Age of students enrolled in a marital martial arts course. Sorry, it's not marital, martial arts course, maybe like karate, judo, etc. The answer is ratio scale. Weights of beef cattle fed a special diet. The answer is ratio scale. Pages in the telephone book for the city of Los Angeles. Ratio scale. Now let me explain what is the meaning of statistical survey. Why we need to do survey. Can we survive without a survey? We need to think. Any company, researcher, or individual, why are they doing a survey? They want to identify what is a problem, gaps, and they wanted to identify what is the probable solution. That is why statistical survey is being undertaken. So, by statistical survey or inquiry, we mean a search for the collection of facts of a given problem. The collected numerical facts are the raw material through which the problem is to be studied. The relevant collection of information by any agency to tackle a particular problem under study is termed as survey or inquiry. A statistician's prime duty is to collect the data. So I hope with this you can understand the meaning of statistical survey, why and how it is being done. Now let me show the methods of collecting data and how to frame a questionnaire. First, let us focus on what is collection of data. Data is the information collected through censuses and surveys or in a routine manner or other sources called raw data, as you can look into the images which is shown below. So once you collected data, the data will not look in an organized way. That is what we call as a raw data. After collecting the data only, we will organize it. The word data means information. Its literary meaning is given as facts. The adjective raw attached to data indicates that the information thus collected and recorded cannot be put to use immediately and directly. So, the raw material of statistics originates from the operation of counting or enumeration or measurement. For any statistical inquiry, the basic problem is to collect facts and figures relating to a particular phenomenon under study. So we need to understand, therefore, a statistician conducts the statistical inquiry and he begins his work with the counting or measuring the data. That is why we called collection of data. I hope this is clear. It has to be converted into more suitable form or processed before it begins to make sense to be utilized gainfully. A raw data is a statistical data in original form before any statistical techniques are used to redefine, process, or summarize it. That is why we also have to understand the process of counting or enumerating or measuring together with the recording of results is called the collection of data, as I explained earlier. This is the preliminary step of the statistical inquiry or investigation. Now let us understand the various sources of data. There are two types of statistical data. One is primary data and number two is secondary data. Primary data is the data collected by a particular person or organization for his own use from the primary source. So it can also be called as a fresh data which is collected. Secondary data is the data collected by some other person or organization for their own use, but the investigator also gets it for his use. Now, with regards to primary data, we need to understand these data, which are originally collected for the first time for a specific purpose by an investigator, they are collected directly from the people to whom the inquiry is related. So they are original in character, they are primary to the institution which collects them, they are secondary to all other institutions which refer such data. So once it is done by yourself, when somebody refers your data, it becomes secondary data for others. But for you, it is a primary data. Now, with regards to secondary data are those data which are already collected, as I already explained. So, not only collected, it is processed and used by someone else for their own purpose. They are either published or unpublished. They are finished products. They are secondary to all those institutions except the one which has collected them. So, therefore, it may be observed that the distinction between primary and secondary data is a matter of degree or relativity only. So, I hope the difference between primary and secondary data is clear. Now, let us understand the various methods of collecting primary data. The first method is said to be direct personal observation method. In this method, the investigator collects the data personally and therefore it gives reliable and correct information. Now, what we need to understand in this method, it consists in the collection of data personally by the investigator or organizing agency who has to go to the field personally for making observations or inquiries and collecting the information from the respondents. Not only that, the information is first hand one, more reliable and accurate because of personal approach. There will be a good response from the respondents. So this method is restrictive in nature and is suited only for intensive studies and not for extensive inquiry. So that is what we need to understand with regards to direct personal observation. Now the second method is indirect oral investigation. In this method, a third person is contacted who is expected to know the necessary details about the persons for whom the inquiry is meant. Now, what we need to understand in this method consists in collection of data through enumerators appointed for the purpose. A small list of questions pertaining to the subject matter of the inquiry is prepared. These listed questions are then put to the informants. Informants means respondents who are closely connected or concerned with the subject matter. So the enumerators collect all the answers from the informants and record them systematically. This method is adopted by commissions appointed by the government. Therefore, the information collected by the enumerators is correct and relevant. It is less expensive and requires less time for conducting the inquiry. So that is what we need to understand with regards to indirect oral investigation. The third method is estimates from local sources and correspondence. Here, the investigator appoints agents and correspondents to collect the data. So, in this method, we appoint local agents or correspondents. Through them, we collect the data in different field of inquiry. So these agencies or correspondents in different regions collect the information according to their own ways, fashions, likings, and decisions, and then submit their reports periodically to the central or head office where the data are finally collected. Or it can also be collected by us if we are appointing them. So this method works out to be very cheap and economical for extensive investigations, particularly when the data are obtained by part-time correspondents or agents. The fourth method of collecting primary data is data collected through questionnaires. The data can be collected by preparing a questionnaires and getting it filled by persons concerned. So in this method, we prepare questionnaire, that is a list of questions relating to the field of inquiry and providing spaces for the answers to be filled in by the respondents. Or we may also address to whom the questionnaire is mailed with a request for quick response within the specified time. So what we do, we write a very polite covering note or letter explaining the aims and objects of inquiry, and we send to the respondents. And we expect full cooperation by furnishing information and returning the questionnaire duly filled in. So respondents are taken into confidence by ensuring them that the information so supplied from us will be kept strictly confidential. The next method is investigations through enumerators. This method is generally employed by government for population census, etc. Enumerators visit the respondents personally with a list of questions, ask them the questions therein, and record the answers from the respondents. This method is generally used by big business houses, large public undertakings, and research institutions. So we are not going directly, we are getting the help from enumerators. Enumerators will be working for government or maybe big business houses, large public undertakings, and research institutions. These people go directly, they find the respondents, collect the data, and send the response back to us. So, this is what we need to understand with regards to investigations through enumerators. Now let us understand methods of collecting secondary data. Now the data which have already been collected by someone else are called secondary data, which have gone through the statistical process at least once. They may be either finished or semi-finished and published or unpublished. Published sources are those publications which belong to the government, national, and international organizations, trade associations, and chamber of commerce. The various government departments also publish journals, bulletins, and periodicals which contain valuable and ready information. Even research centers and educational institutions are publishing various types of information. So, unpublished sources are those publications which are not openly circulated in the public. The data are just maintained as records by the private firms or business concerns. They are not at all published as they are meant for private purposes. Even the various units or departments of the government can circulate the information within the departments. So we need to understand such secondary data may be made available to others. The secondary data should be used with extra caution. So you may need to ask permission, a formal request. Without that, sometimes it may be a problem. Therefore, the investigator must satisfy himself as regards to reliability, accuracy, adequacy, and suitability of the data. So these are the various methods of collecting secondary data. Now let us understand. Students, you need to specify whether the collection of data is primary or secondary in each of the following cases. So case number 1. Miss Fatma is doing a research on the marks of her classmates and she collects the information by interviewing each of her classmates separately. So I think, dear students, you have understood the case. Fatma is doing her research and she is collecting information. What we need to identify is she collects the information, fresh information or already published information. So that is the thing we need to understand. Once we understood, it will be very clear to differentiate whether she has collected primary or secondary data. So can you please identify, dear students, what Fatma has done? She has collected primary or secondary data? Yes, she has collected primary data. Case number 2. Mr. Mohammed wants to know how many lecturers are teaching in the various departments of the University of Technology and Applied Sciences, Shinas, and collects this information from the college website. Please note that he has collected the information from college website. Now you have to understand, is the information collected for the first time or from already published sources? So it is not collected for the first time. So the answer will be secondary data, yes. Third case, Mr. Ahmed wants to know if there was college on an unusually rainy day and collects the information that the college was on leave from watching the television. So he has collected information from Oman TV or watching news. So what is this data called? Could you please guess, dear students? Yes, the answer is secondary data. Case number 4. Miss Faiza is an enumerator. Enumerator means he or she may be appointed by government or big companies. So Miss Faiza is an enumerator for the government of Oman and collects data on the number of people affected by COVID diseases in the region of Shinas by visiting each individual house in the area. This is not possible. This is just an example I'm telling. So when she goes and collects the information directly from the affected people, this information is called, could you please guess, dear students? Yes, primary data. So now I think you can understand the difference between which data belongs to primary and which data belongs to secondary. Now let's move on to understand how to frame a questionnaire. The questionnaire is the media of communication between the investigator and the respondents. As you may be very familiar, it will be prepared by students who are doing projects or researcher and it will be circulated to you. So you need to fill the details. So the success of an investigation depends on the construction of the questionnaire. You need to construct it very easily. It means you should understand in a way a person has to understand the question and answer easily. So in that way, one has to construct. That is why we call success. So if you are successful in that, people will easily give you the feedback. If they don't understand, then the feedback what it is collected may not be giving you a clarity. As such, utmost care and caution are essential for designing or drafting the questionnaires. It requires great care, skill, wisdom efficiency, and experience. There are no hard and fast rules to be followed, but following general points may be borne in mind. So you need to keep the general points in mind while framing a questionnaire. So what are those general points? Number one, questionnaire should be brief. If it is lengthy, then people will be bored. Question should be simple to understand. Too many complicated words which gives no clarity, that should be avoided. Question should be arranged logically. It should be in a sequence. Also, there must be a choice. There are three types of questions. Simple alternative questions, as I've shown you the picture of sample of image of questionnaire on the right side. And it should also contain multiple choice questions, specific information questions. So all these points about framing a questionnaire, I will be discussing in more details in the next part of the video lecture.